Samoa motherfucking Joe. Hello and welcome to All Elite Morro, where the best talk about Samoa motherfucking Joe. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Your new AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Samoa motherfucking Joe. David Ayres, how you doing, bud? How is the form? How are we all feeling? Nice little weekend behind us with a bit of wrestling. AEW pay-per-view weekend. A weird pay-per-view where the build was kind of odd. Samoa Joe might just be the baddest, toughest, most real wrestler in the game, says Oshin Mack. You damn right. This guy. Look at that picture. That moment when Swerve was coming out and Joe spat the blood out of his mouth. My God. Sensational. Plenty of responses today. Jimmy B says, I was shocked to see Hangman drop the belt, but really happy to see Swerve return. Also shocked. Cottle Crow says, looks and sounds all good, Morrow. That is a rarity that we get off to a smooth start like that, Cottle. Sean Dunn says, Joe is the king of the mountain once again, and it's all thanks to Hook. Drink it in, man. Who's buzzing for Raw tonight? Cannot wait, Aaron. Not sure if I like the title change. Felt a bit too soon for Hangman to lose, but I like where I think it's going to go. Shen says, can you talk about SmackDown, please? I do have one thing to talk about in SmackDown, but the rest of the show was, as always, the drizzling shits. I think I'll get to Cody's promo. I thought that was fantastic. Jimmy B, I was shocked to see Hangman drop the title, but really happy to see Swerve return. I was shocked as well. Alex Wynn says Hangman's reign was proof that short reigns can be great sometimes. We're going to do a breakdown of Hangman's reign. Mark Dowd says, love Samoa Joe, one of my faves. Just feels like Hangman's reign never got out of first gear. Can I talk about how Bret is slating everyone? Absolutely. There's nobody like Bret Hart. To be honest, something that frustrates me about modern no, it's not even modern. These interviews have been going back years. Like when they interview old wrestlers, they just always talk about current wrestlers, and no old wrestlers like current wrestling. None of them even watch it anymore. Like Bret didn't even know who MJF was, despite the fact he did a segment with him 6 years ago. But like, I would much prefer to hear Bret be asked about stuff from the 80s instead of talk about modern stuff. Because clearly he doesn't care. And it just becomes clickbait farming for people hungry for engagement on Twitter. I just don't think it adds any... Like, who cares what Bret thinks of Sheamus' worked punch? Modern worked punches are crap anyway. David, that is actually... So David says, to be fair, Samoa Joe has never won enough world titles in his career, criminally underutilized. That is the crux of the first segment. The underutilization of Samoa Joe. Oshin Max says, can't lie, the part Hook had in the finish of Hangman Joe felt awful, unconvincing and underwhelming. Yes. Yes, why is Hook there? Am I gone the wrong way on these? Or is that autumn? Oh, there's one more summer. I lost it. Did I lose it? Shen just spams me with crap. Oh no, it was Dunphy correcting us. Unpredictability, this is Sean Dunn, unpredictability in wrestling these days is nearly extinct, totally agree. So for us to get that on Saturday night was incredible, and the post-match angle was magic, totally agree as well. Hangman and Swerve at Revolution for the title, I agree. Okay, So, here's kind of what I want to talk. I don't really want to dive into the match. Maybe we'll brush on the... Look, here's the thing. I've said this on this podcast, both the actual pod and the live, for... I don't know. If you're listening to this all along, you're going to have heard me say this same thing for the 55,000th time. I hate modern cage matches simply because they nearly always have some form of outside interference. And I think it's just... If you want to do outside interference in a cage match, you need to do 12 months of cage matches where there's no outside interference. So I'll just get that part out of the way. I didn't like the outside interference. I didn't like Hook's utilization. I seen Hobbs tweeted out that he was with them all along. To me, that makes no sense because they wrestled each other loads of times. I don't think Hook is deserving of that spot. If you look at other people, someone like Sky Blue, who has gone, and like Sky Blue I don't think is amazing either, but I do think she's improved dramatically. She's gone off on the indies, done loads of work. Hook hasn't. Like, what has he done to earn this spot, to be involved in something of such importance within the company? Yeah, he has loads of upside potential, but he's never going to reach that potential unless he puts in the work, and he doesn't put in the work. So I don't think he deserves to be in a spot such as that. Okay, that's get the negative out of the way. The match was badass, as it was always going to be with these two. They beat the living shit out of each other. Joe got one of the great gushers of the last few years. Look at the blood. It was thick. It was juicy. It's Samoa Joe. David Ayres says about Joe being criminally underutilized. I think Samoa Joe might be the most underutilized wrestler of the 21st century. This guy, in any other era, would have been top heel for any fucking company going. Imagine mid-90s or 92, 93 when the steroid trial is happening. You think if Samoa Joe wasn't around then, that Vince would have been like, oh yeah, all the steroid guys are out, let's belt up Joe. You think he wouldn't have done a monster house show run with Hogan in the 80s? He would have done a monster run with Hogan in the 80s. He would have been the perfect challenger for Bruno in the 70s. Imagine him in 80s NWA challenging for the title, or going to Japan as part of with Terry Funk or something. Like, this guy would have been a top star at any point in wrestling history, save for the era he existed in, because there was one company at the top who had a very definitive idea of what a pro wrestler should be. Like, do you not think that in 05, 06, 07 that Samoa Joe wasn't as good, or couldn't have been the best top heel in WWE going against John Cena? Wasn't as good as Batista? Wasn't as good as Randy Orton? He was streets ahead of those guys in that era. The one time he got a chance in WWE in the 2010s, he was the most interesting opponent that Brock Lesnar had for about 10 years. I am so happy that Joe is finally, and yet he isn't as dynamic as he was 20 years ago, or as fluid as he was 10 years ago, but he can still put on the type of matches where you get two guys who hit hard, go in there and just batter each other for a world title, and he's so believable, and he's unbelievable on the mic. He's a perfect professional wrestler. Dave there says he's a one-time TNA champion. That's insane. Aaron says Joe should have got a run during the Brock feud, even a short back and forth. Absolutely. That's the Great Balls of Fire was the pay-per-view. Remember the angle in the build-up to that pay-per-view where Joe came out and choked out Lesnar on top of the stage? Like, that was great. Sean Dunn says cage matches should be no outside interference as a rule, the same way it's meant to keep two competitors in the ring and not have someone escape. Totally agree with that as well, Sean. Look, I think all conventions are made to be broken at some stage, but the breaking of the convention needs to be rare in order for it to feel special or important. Now, essentially every cage match has some level of outside interference, and that's a problem. It like, you know, we were all sitting there waiting for Hobbs and Shibata or whoever to get involved. Shane Mack says, problem is WWE tried to polish Joe. Joe needs to be let loose to flourish and be himself. That's where the grit and the money is with him. Fact. But I felt like they'd kind of let him off the leash a little bit in that Lesnar feud. And like the match only went 6 or 7 minutes, but it was actually a badass match with Lesnar that time. I loved the whispering Heyman. Oh, that angle was sensational, Ronan. The whispering in Heyman's ear what he was going to do to Brock. Just the levels of intimidation were off the charts. Just a perfect professional wrestler. 2-time AEW champion now. And I feel like this is a transitional reign. But like Joe's a perfect transitional heel champion. So here's kind of the positives with this. I've seen a lot of people are saying Hangman's reign was too short. Maybe, but I think a lot of modern reigns are too long anyway. Like, we've been conditioned over the last 6-7 years to think that every reign needs to be a super long one. You know, WWE there have gone from and like Seth Rollins' reign was cut short. That would have lasted to at least WrestleMania, which would have been a 9 or 10 month reign. Cody's reign this time around is going to be SummerSlam to Mania at the very least, I would say. And his previous reign before that was a year exactly, and before that Roman was champion for years. AEW generally tend to do pretty long championship reigns, bar the ones that were cut short by injury. You know, Mox was 9 or 10 months. The Danielson one was short last year. Swerve's was close to 6 months. Joe had a bit of a transitional reign before that, but that was still 3 or 4 months. MJF had a very long reign before Joe. So, like, we've been conditioned to expect long reigns, and I think the long reigns just become, unfortunately, a bit predictable, and that's been a very big problem for Cody's current reign. And I think the unpredictable nature of this, I think it was Sean who said it earlier on, the unpredictable nature of this was phenomenal. I love that unpredictability throughout the card. When Pac beat Darby Allin, I said, oh, right, Pac must be the next challenger for Hangman then. Because I just assumed Hangman was winning this. And then when the finish of the main event happened, I was like, fuck, the post-match angle was magic. We have to ask ourselves one question. What is the biggest money match AEW have? It's Swerve versus Hangman. That's the biggest money match that the company has in their pocket to run at a pay-per-view next year. Swerve versus Hangman, I think, is the one that will draw the most interest in terms of selling tickets to a live show such as Revolution or Double or Nothing or whatever, and also TV ratings and also pay-per-view buys. That's the biggest match to have. And I think I'll just go through a few chats before finishing that thought. Aaron Reynolds says, unreal promo I did with Brock and Roman, got him serious heat backstage. I told Chris Van Vliet that Vince hated it. I'm sure Vince hated it because Roman or Brock complained to him. Sean Dunn says, Hangman is a chaser just like Austin was. That's fair. That could be a very fair analysis. Ronan says, Joe just talking on commentary when Mania was delayed because the rain was gold. He was so good even at that in his poncho. Ripshot says you can have long reigns these days because it's just create a new belt every month. Yep, nightmare. Ripshot, your stuff on YouTube, everyone should follow Ripshot on YouTube and Instagram. Stuff is fucking phenomenal. Big shout out to Ripshot. Everyone follow his pages because his stuff is, I don't know how you do it, it's amazing. Serious talent there. Aaron Reynolds says Swerve versus Ospreay in England. Yeah, I was thinking like the other big money matches, something centered around Ospreay in England. I actually don't think it really matters who the opponent is. It obviously matters that the opponent is at the upper end of the roster, but like it's either that could be Swerve or Hangman or I don't know, even Moxley. You know, there's a few guys you could put in there. No problem, Rich Shot. There's a few guys you could put in there opposite Ospreay in England. I think any of them would be the same level of draw. I think, yeah, you're right. Like obviously, Ospreay in a title match at All In England is going to be the biggest draw of the year next year. But I think other than that, in terms of a money match, anywhere, anytime, I think Swerve Hangman is the one. It's been over a year now, like well over a year at this stage, since they had their last singles match in the cage. And I think this is kind of the thought that I interrupted to go through the chats was, it was very obvious, right? They're taking the title off Hangman. They're not necessarily repositioning him on the card. In fact, I think they're moving him up the card. And let me clarify why. Who is the fourth man on the babyface side? I assume Hangman, Swerve, and Eddie Kingston. So Ospreay is probably too far away, coming back from injury. That's a really good question, David. Depends if this goes into the new year, January, February, which I assume it will, because we're into Continental Classic season now, and that will kind of be the dominant factor on TV. If it's January, February, it could be Ospreay. But like, that's a rogues gallery of class baby faces to have gone against. And this is great for Will Hobbs as well, because Will Hobbs is going to be interacting with all the top baby faces over the next few months. The Ripshot thought Swerve beat the shit out of 10 men was a bit over the top. Yeah, I think he could have just taken out Shibata and that would have been fine. I thought the image of Joe with the Ops Dojo there looked like Joe in the middle of like 20 badass looking, well, they weren't all badass looking, some of them were looking like just a complete killer. I thought the image was cool, but like, yeah, it sort of didn't need to go full fucking Superman there against everyone. But that closing image of Swerve and Hangman standing side by side, like realistically, the way television was structured and framed over the last few months, the biggest story was still the Death Riders. Like, that was in the more prime spots on the show than the Hangman Samoa Joe story. And I think the way they finished this pay-per-view, and with Swerve coming back, I think the biggest story in terms of opening the show, closing the show, and being on that top of the hour spot is going to be the Ops versus that combination of babyfaces. So in that way, I actually think it's good for Hangman. It gives him something to do. If he had beaten Joe here, his title reign was moving into that territory of Monster of the Month type thing, of a new baddie shows up that Hangman's going to wrestle for a month and then banishes. Like a lot of Cena's reigns were, and a lot of those Cena's reigns then become unmemorable because of that. Whereas having this kind of 3 or 4 month good but not unbelievable, like fantastically great reign, like good, not bad, not great reign, and then going into another more interesting story involving Swerve and like, the only way I think you could have really, and thinking about it in a bit of depth since the match, without falling into the trap of doing the Monster of the Month type challenger for Hangman, would have been if Swerve came back as a heel. And I also don't think you don't want to do that match at World's End, the next pay-per-view, because that's not one of their like bigger like World's End really is, along with maybe Wrestle Dream, their 2 smallest pay-per-views of the year. I think you don't want to do Swerve versus Hangman till at least Revolution. Sean Dunn says Ospreay has his redemption story leading into All In, where he takes on MJF for the title. Hangman and Swerve have a death match or something at All In to pay off the feud for another few years. Could see that happening as well. It's next August though, it's a long way away. Now also, and you mentioned an interesting party there, and that being MJF. MJF still has a contract for a title shot, and it was Samoa Joe who took the title off MJF the last time. So that may also play a factor here. I don't see MJF being a babyface though, so I don't know how they go about this. Maybe he's that 4th babyface, but I don't think you want to turn him face, because I think you do want him heel for next year. So I was thinking, like, the only way to really kind of keep Hangman's reign going interesting story-wise would have been a Swerve heel turn, or an MJF return, and they've kind of done that story already. So I think it was probably a good choice story-wise to put the title on Samoa Joe. It gives everyone at all those kind of top baby faces an interesting direction over the next few months. David Ayres says they'll do a triple threat next for the title. They could do that, but I feel like Joe's last reign had a similar thing, that triple threat with Hangman and Swerve, actually, where Hangman tapped out to stop Swerve from getting the title, and that was the exact same thing, Joe, Hangman and Swerve. It'd be quite funny seeing a triple threat. I never want triple threats for world titles. However, I think like the least memorable AEW title matches for me are the triple threat ones, the Orange Cassidy Pac Omega one and the Joe, Swerve and Hangman one, and also that 4-way with MJF and the other pillars. Like, you know, none of them matches really clicked at a super high level. But yeah, I think this has reinvigorated the top of the card. It's another notch in the belt for Samoa Joe's career. It gives Hangman a fantastic, interesting direction. Swerve felt like a megastar. So all positive, mostly positive things for me. Or like I think it was Oshin mentioned earlier, the only thing that I wasn't sold on was the Hook involvement. But yeah, I think there's just so much interesting things that can come out of this. Yeah, and look, fucking Samoa Joe's a champion. How great is that? This pay-per-view as a whole felt like a bit of a reset. So we got Brodito finally losing the titles to FDR after a tremendous reign from Brodito. And I thought Bandito in this match was just exceptional. And I think it really showed the level of top face he can be, how much the crowd were with him towards those near falls at the end when he was in that kind of 1v2 scenario. Another tremendous title match involving Brodito. These guys are a very good show for Tag Team of the Year. And yeah, I just think this was a tremendous run. Not the longest title run of all time, but every match delivered on pay-per-view, and every match kind of felt special. Sean Dunn says ECW were the only promotion to do triple threats for the title properly. Yeah, I think Ring of Honor had a couple of good early triple threats, but then they started to specialize so well in singles matches. But ECW is a fair show. Aaron Reynolds says he's the best wrestler ever. Is that Joe or Bandito? Because, you know what I mean? Bandito's fucking sick as well. Bandito was just exceptional in this match. And Brodito, you have a serious case for Tag Team of the Year. But I think FDR, in fairness, you look at what FDR have done this year. They've elevated so many teams. They made Jet Speed feel special. They made fucking Adam Priest and Tommy Billington feel special. The only match FDR program slash match that didn't deliver for me on a high level this year was the Cope and Christian one. But they've been doing unbelievable work on TV. Every angle they're in is excellent. Excellent. And I feel like they've given so much to this tag title or tag scene in AEW this year. AEW's tag scene 8 months ago was in shambles, let's be honest. It was the worst it's been since the company started. And I think the backbone of that being reinvigorated throughout 2025 was both the forming of Brodito and FTR's work. And it culminated in just an exceptional tag team match. And they could do a rematch. I would watch a rematch of this all fucking day. This match was excellent. I hope they put Bandito in the Continental Classic and push him in the Continental Classic. He doesn't need to win it. He just needs to have a good showing. He's a guy who could... Imagine if it goes into the last night and it's him versus Okada for the winner of the A block. And they have an unbelievable match and Okada wins. Like, would that hurt Bandito? I don't think it would. And it could give him a rival to overcome down the line. Oshin Mack says, I hope Bandito gets pushed to the moon, the Continental Classic off the back of this. Yeah, exactly, Oshin. Exactly. Aaron Randall says, Bandito, he's the fucking man. Yeah, he's so good. Like, I really felt I always felt that Bandito had top star potential, and we've been super positive about him in the chat here. We've been talking about him as certainly a contender for overall wrestler of the year, but probably the number one contender for best in-ring wrestler of the year this year. And we've been consistent with that for months now. But this was the first time when he did that close near fall kick out and the crowd went ballistic. And this was a crowd that was hard to get a lot of life out of them for a lot of this show. But when Bandito kicked out at near fall towards the end, when he was in that 1v2 situation, the place came unglued. And it was a moment when I felt, this guy actually does have top face connection with the fans. I think he's a guy that could be pushed to world champion. I'd love a fucking Joe Bandito title match. Sean Dunn says a program with Jurassic Express would be great. Get some bangers out of that. Yeah, the 6-man with Omega and Jurassic Express versus the Bucks and Josh Alexander fell a bit flat for me. I wasn't that into it. And before the show, I thought like this is going to be one of them times where Omega and the Bucks are in the ring together along with 3 other awesome guys, and we're going to get like a classic 6-man tag. I don't know. I just didn't feel like it clicked. I don't think it was anyone's fault in particular. It was just one of them nights where the match just didn't work in the slot I was in or whatever. But I do think FTR versus Jurassic Express in 2025 would be very, very good. But that match itself on the 6-man on the night didn't really click for me. Here's something I'm worried about. So the opening match, which was supposed to be the pre-show match, and they did that thing that worked so great last month at Wrestle Dream, where the pre-show bleeds into the main show. I didn't think it worked as well this time. I didn't think they should have gone back to the well so soon on it. Do that once every 6 months to a year. Don't do it in back-to-back pay-per-views. I think you put that concept to bed now until at least Double or Nothing next year, like May, June sometime. Kyle Fletcher lost to Mark Briscoe. Fantastic match. That's one of the matches I've chosen to focus on today because I loved that match. Sean Dunn says I didn't get the animosity between Josh and the Bucks. That kind of felt like a bit shoehorned in, and maybe that's why it didn't work for me. And I know they've been kind of telling a story along the way of the Bucks being hesitant to attack Kenny and all this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I don't think the emotional... And I thought, like, in terms of the acting performances after the match and the post-match angle of Kenny and the Bucks, the acting performances were good and all that, like, and Kenny was selling the emotion of it really well. I just don't know. Maybe if, like... for people who are newer to AEW or didn't watch New Japan before and haven't seen Kenny and the Bucks break up and reunite 17 times, it might have felt or meant more to someone like that, whereas a lot of us might have elite lore fatigue, perhaps. Maybe that's an element of it. Last PP, this is Rib Shot, last PP pay-per-view match starting on it was a novelty. This time around it ruined the opening presentation. I thought, it felt like they got it wrong this time. Ron Daniel says Briscoe low-key wrestler of the year. If you think of Briscoe's year, that stretcher match with Ricochet was like special. That's a match I'll remember for a long, long time. The thumbtack and tables match with MJF, again, unique and special. He was tremendous in Blood and Guts, and again in this and every interaction he's had with Kyle Fletcher has been A+. Mark Briscoe is just he's a guy, like, in my opinion, he should be the company's Mick Foley and get that Mick Foley run of being in the title picture kind of out of nowhere and even winning the title on TV in some mad way. And he doesn't need it for that long. Briscoe's certainly a chaser more than a guy who's going to hold the title for a long time. But like, that's this thing of we're talking about people getting long reigns all the time. Briscoe, give someone like Briscoe a month-long world title reign. Have him trade titles with whoever your top heel is at that time. It'd be an incredible moment. Aaron says, I think it's a sign that Kenny's winding down. Yeah, I think that's why they did it now, Aaron. I think that's why they did it now. It's like, right, let's get this reunion in place, and Kenny's last full-time run is gone, and even though it won't be even fully full-time, David Ayer says, heading off to watch the football, check the rest out later. Super excited for the C2, and surely Mox gets out from the Debt Rider soon. Mox is getting slimed out very soon. Enjoy the football. What time is it? Starting now. I'm going to go for another 20 minutes and then catch the football myself. Can't wait for the C2 as well. My only worry about the C2 is, did anyone else feel like this angle between Briscoe, Takeshita and Okada was kind of hinting that kind of hinting at a triple threat final? Are they going to like do some fucking nonsense in the C2 to get a triple threat final of Okada versus Fletcher versus Takeshita? I really hope not. Did anyone else feel that, or is this just me kind of overthinking the scenario? I would love to know. Ron Daniel says Briscoe will be perfect to take the title off MJF. Yes, he should do the Mick Foley Rock thing. Let's say MJF is going to be the one defending against Ospreay at All In next year. I think they should do a Briscoe MJF as The Rock and Mick Foley late 98, early 99 thing there. That would be fucking perfect. Yeah, I just hope that this angle wasn't an indication that they're going to go somewhere try and shoehorn in a triple threat into the final of the Continental Classic, because they've been teasing us so heavily with Takeshita and Okada, and I just don't think they should get Kyle Fletcher in there. And if it's a political thing that they have to put Fletcher in there so he eats the pin, I would hate that as well. If you're going to book Takeshita and Okada and you're going to tease it for so long, you do it 1v1 and you give us a winner and you let them have a series of 3 matches over 18 months. But please don't tease us with the 1v1 and give us a watered down triple threat. And don't get me wrong, I think Kyle Fletcher is the number 1 young wrestler on the planet with the most upside and the brightest future. But he doesn't need to be in this in a triple threat scenario. He can lose to one of these guys in the group stages. Takeshita losing, like ideally Takeshita wins his group with Fletcher coming second, and Okada loses or wins his group with Bandito coming second. Mark Briscoe is the underdog. WWE wants Sami Zayn to be, yes, and a big factor in that I think is he's allowed bleed, and when he bleeds we love him even more, and when he flashes that toothless smile we love him even more. And he's just, his energy is incredible. He seems so genuine. Like his connection with the fans is real. And don't get me wrong, I think Sammy's every bit as good, if not better overall than Mark Briscoe. But I think Briscoe's environment is just perfect for Briscoe. And to see the fans turning on Sammy, like a lot of terminally online fans are turning on Sammy, breaks my heart, because I think he's the best wrestler, along with his best friend Kevin Owens, in that company. Sean Dunn says, I think Fletcher gets his next feud from the C2 and it's just a way of building the turn from Kyle on to Takeshita. Okay. I hope you're right. Yeah, I hope you're right. I was just, when I saw this segment, I was like, please don't try and build this into a triple threat. You know, I was like that thing of like, I want Okada and Takeshita 1v1 so bad that anything that involves them that isn't that. We've already had them in a triple threat, that Mascara Dorado match, which was tremendous. I just don't want another triple threat. I want the real deal again, you know. I just want the match. Yeah, look, you can see from this image here, there isn't anything more to say. Moxley's days are numbered. He's getting murdered on TV very, very soon, possibly as soon as Wednesday. These guys are turning on him ASAP. I don't think they should have Mox in the C2. I think what they should do is have the Debt Riders kill Mox on Wednesday. Mox disappears for a month and comes back on a redemption arc as a babyface. Similar type of character, but redeeming those features of insecurity and quitting, and needing the backup of this badass group of shitheads. Which I think they should murder Mox Wednesday and put him out for a month, at least a month, maybe until the new year, and have him do a monster return. When would you pay off Okada and Takeshita? Well, I'd have them in the final of the C2 or the C squared, but I wouldn't pay it off there. I would build that as like a 3-match, 12-month rivalry of some description, however they want to do it. Whether it's Okada wins the first match and Takeshita 2 and 3, probably long term I'd have Takeshita win the series, but I mightn't have him win the first match. But I'd certainly do like a singles match in the Continental Classic, and then I'd keep them apart in terms of singles competition until like sometime in the summer, and then I might do the final match of the series, Continental Classic final next year, something to that effect. But yeah, it'd be the type of series that I wouldn't rush the 3 matches over 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. I'd have them do a trilogy over a year. So, but I'd get the first singles match started pretty ASAP, because I feel like they've done a great job building it, and like if you look at live crowd reactions, they're molten hot for that program to get going. I think they've got it to the level now. They're not going to get the crowd any hotter for it, so I think you do the first match soon. And I think obviously, look, they're going to have an unbelievable match, and when they do, what you want to do is pull back on it a little bit, build that up again, and have the return match excitement be driven by the quality of the first match. But yeah, I'd get that first match done soon. Oshin says, I don't know how, but when it does, the turn on Mox has to be worse than what happened to Danielson. They need to tear him apart like a pack of wolves. It has to be a murder. It has to be, even if you just do the same as what they did to Danielson, the plastic bag. I think they should just do the same thing, plastic bag. Seeing Pac's chest answer the question of what Cole does need a bra if he got the implants. Pac is in ridiculous shape. Ridiculous. And it's going to be such a great moment when they do turn on Mox. It's going to be such a great moment. He's played this character to utter perfection. Like, he is in the last days of tyranny. He is the dictator who the walls are closing in around him, and he's only left with his inner circle who are all side-eyeing him. This is Mussolini shit. This is Gaddafi shit. It's like just great storytelling. And I can't, like, I think there's 6 months more of magic left in this, which is crazy considering where we were 8 months ago, 7 months ago. Who's the new leader? Pac, says Ribshaw. Yeah, I always thought Claudio, but recently I'm thinking Pac. Pac has really stepped up since his return. He feels like a catalyst. Him beating Darby in a singles match. When Pac beat Darby in the singles match, I was like, oh, Pac's the next guy to go against Hangman. But yeah, Pac feels like the guy, I think. Who becomes the leader though? That's Sean says, I don't think Claudio is the leader. Should it be Kid? I don't think people will buy Kid as the leader. Even though, yeah, I just don't. Kid is cold at the moment with both the New Japan fans and the AEW fans, which is weird because he was so hot back in January, but he killed his own momentum when he pulled out of the G1 and then showed up to do the big cage match at Forbidden Door. That hurt him. Pac is by far the best promo of those lot. Yeah, I'd go with Pac. I'd go with Pac as the leader because you don't need to talk that much. And like, Pac isn't the best promo in the world, but he's a fucking solid promo, particularly in sound bites. Like, you know, he doesn't need to be in the ring giving a 20-minute promo, but he can give badass backstage 2-minute promos. And particularly in the style that we've been getting out of Death Riders, he'd be fantastic at that. There's very few people in the world of wrestling who can do what Moxley does on the mic. But I think Pac can be good enough on the mic to carry the Death Rider story. Because, like, what does the Death Riders in general have left? 6 months? 5 months? You know, we're down to a countable amount of months now. And they're not going to be the force. We have to, like, realistically, over the next few months, they're going to be cycled down the card, and they're going to be the third biggest heel faction after the Ops and after the Don Callis family. because this thing is coming to its conclusion. So, and I think they'll be killed off by like some combination of like Mox, Danielson, or Darby Allin, But yeah, I think Pac is probably the guy to carry it forward. Mark Briscoe versus Kyle Fletcher was amazing. Awesome. Sean Dunn says that video package for Pac and Darby made Pac look like a legit killer. Yeah, Pac is a guy, and because like Pac was really Hangman's first major singles program outside of losing the world title match to Jericho, but his Pac program actually started before the Jericho title match. So that's why I thought when Pac won, he was next for Hangman, because they have a great history together. They've had 2 banger matches, singles matches together at the very least. But yeah, I think like we're going Pac takes over from Moxley. What I would say is, obviously, the Mark Briscoe Kyle Fletcher match was tremendous. But Kyle Fletcher's interview at the post-show scrum, it was just beautiful. I'd highly recommend. Look, don't watch the whole scrum. 95% of the scrum was boring as shit, as most of them are. However, Mark Briscoe's speech at the post-show scrum was top tier. Brilliant. And so deserving. And look, he's had big victories now over Fletcher and MJF in the last few months. So great to see him being in the position he is on the card. And I think he could even push him higher. There's not enough nice things I can say about that match. I loved every minute of it. Evaluating Hangman's title reign. What do we think of the title run? Let's just kind of recap it a bit. Look, obviously the chase itself, amazing. Top tier chase. One of the best chases in years. Up right there with the Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 40 chase. Fans were clamoring for it. Unfortunately, it coincided with a time with Swerve and Ospreay getting injured. Never ideal. The 2 guys he's interacting with most in the build to his title win are the 2 guys that are injured for the start of his title win. So the first thing we get is that TV rematch with Moxley in the residency they did in Chicago. Very good match. Obviously not as good as pay-per-view, but very good match nonetheless. Then he goes into the MJF program, which I thought the program itself was exceptional, and the match was nearly perfect until it did a bit of a fuckery of a finish, which hurt the match slightly, but the match itself was exceptional. He did the Lee Moriarty match, which was decent. Simple TV reign, or simple TV defense. It was fine, not an amazing. Then he goes into the what came after that, the Kyle Fletcher match at All Out. I love that match. That was my favorite defense of the reign, and I thought that's a defense that is going to age very well in terms of both Hangman's career going forward, but also Kyle Fletcher's career. I think that was a very important reign, and that's a title match we'll look back on as being kind of an establishment point of a future feud, and future character kind of motivations for Kyle Fletcher. So very, very important. And then we go into, I think, more or less straight into the Samoa Joe stuff after that. The first Samoa Joe title match was good, not great, but featured a fantastic angle with Joe turning heel. And then we get this match, a decent match, good match, but ending in not the greatest finish to the match itself with Hook, but with a tremendous Swerve comeback angle after it. So you look at that, they actually packed a lot into what was essentially a 4-month title run. And I think it was the best way, or kind of the best way of putting it, is that it was a super serviceable title run. It accomplished a lot without being super long. Good title run, not an all-time great title run, not a dud of a title run as some people are saying online. It's a title run that accomplished an awful lot, but during the reign. But however, like if we look then at in terms of attendances, most of it did great numbers in terms of attendances when it comes to pay-per-views. Pay-per-view buys were super healthy during this reign. Any of the pay-per-views where he defended the title were up about 10% on the previous year. And then it's very hard to make a judgment now on the TV thing because of that change in the Nielsen big data system. It looks like that's going to be changed back. That's why I haven't mentioned ratings on here in weeks, because this big data thing is a mess, and even the NFL are complaining that it's not accurate. So I don't think we can. I haven't even mentioned, like, SmackDown ratings, which have looked terrible, AEW ratings, which have looked poor, NXT ratings, which have like dropped by half. Those three, the ones that are captured by data, Raw and Netflix, is totally different. I haven't mentioned ratings since this new thing came in because, number one, I think it's going to get changed again, and number two, we don't have a proper comparison point, so it's kind of pointless. So it's hard to judge Hangman's reign in that sense. In terms of storytelling, I think it was good. In terms of business, I think it was good, not great. So a super serviceable reign, and one that I enjoyed personally. Aaron there says good but not great. I think that's the fairest way to put it. Oshin says I liked it, but Hangman is a better chaser, and there's not a thing wrong with that. Yeah, I agree with that as well, Oshin. I think it was you said earlier, Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, he was a better chaser. None of Stone Cold's reigns on an individual level are super memorable. But also, some of Stone Cold's reigns kind of, like, if you look at Stone Cold's first reign, that suffered from having a depleted roster after WrestleMania 14. Like, they had to dust off Dude Love character for to go against Steve Austin for like the first 3 months of that reign. Sean Dunn says Jay White probably would have been a feud they would have went with, especially in that Fletcher spot. Yeah, I think like Jay White's another guy who pinned Hangman last year at Full Gear, would have been another perfect challenger, and he's injured. So like 3 guys he has loads of history with in Ospreay, Swerve, and Jay White are all injured for his reign. And I think that's why they did the title switch when they did, because it was like, right, we're kind of running out of credible contenders for Hangman here. What if we like switch the title to Joe, and then we can do a Hangman Swerve going after Joe type of thing? Because I don't think I thought they might turn Swerve heel and do that, but I don't think the crowd wants Swerve to be a heel. And do you want to fight against the crowd? You'd have to do something really, I think Swerve is better right now in his career as a babyface. I do think he's a tremendous heel, and I think probably his best character arcs have been as a heel. But I just don't think you want to. It now isn't the time for him to be a heel, so they probably made the right decision in not doing that. So yeah, it makes sense to swap the title now. But yeah, good, serviceable title reign, not amazing. Men's WarGames, like, I don't want to watch Brock Lesnar. I don't want to watch Logan Paul. Drew McIntyre is just a bore fest for me at the moment. The Usos are bore fest for me at the moment. Roman Reigns, it's hard to care about Anthony's doing right now. So like the only people in this match I'm interested in are Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Cody, and Punk. And I think Punk is a diminished version of himself. So I'm not super excited about this. I think they could have done really interesting things by having younger, fresher faces here. Like, why are the Usos still in this spot? Jesus. In saying that, Cody's promo on SmackDown the other night, 90 seconds long, and sold this match like a motherfucker. Well done, Cody. But yeah, like, none of it, who cares, really, is my thing. Sean Dunn says, is there any way we see Kenny get the strap back? Ospreay and Omega for the title at All In would be next level. Sean, unfortunately, I don't think we ever see Kenny with the title again. Look, maybe he's working as all with his level of health, but he just does look like a guy who can't currently handle the rigors of a full-time schedule. And as much as I hate that, he's certainly one of my favourite wrestlers ever. But yeah, it's just sad. Ripshot says Pompadour Punk needs a new look. That hairstyle is just atrocious. And look, I can't say that. Look at the cut of my hair. Like, Punk's 10 years older than me and has better hair, great, but get rid of that fucking pompadour, man. It's a disgrace. Roland says WarGames feels like a Saudi show. It fucking does. I was thinking, like, what? And they booked that, what I think that Nakamura and all those guys in the a traditional Survivor Series matchup, Survivor Series elimination match, and then it's on SmackDown next week. I was like, that is such a cool match to have on your pay-per-view, like Nakamura and Sami and all. And they did the old school 1990, 1991, 89 babyface promos from the back. I was like, this is perfect. And then it's on SmackDown. Put that on your card. Like, just put that on it. Feels like a Saudi show. Who was it there? I think it was Aaron said it. The women's match is way more interesting. Way more. Now, there are parts of this match that I'm not that interested in. Like, who wants to see Nia Jax? Not me. But having AJ and Becky in there would be cool. Io and Rhea, I really like that storyline with the Kabuki Warriors. Asuka's one of my favourite wrestlers of the 21st century. I've said this loads of time. And that's tied in nicely with the Charlotte and Bliss stuff. So yeah, I think there is lots of, like, this has come together more organically in my mind. Now, some parts of it feel forced as well, but it has come together more organically in my mind. So I'm looking forward to this a bit more, and I think this actually has more, actually, like, some of these stars are more over than the company are letting us believe. Certainly more over organically than some of the men, like Rhea and Io, like Asuka and Kairi. Lash Legend has felt like she's been doing great work the last few weeks. They could turn Alexa. That'd be cool. I think she's a better heel anyway. But yeah, I'm way more looking forward to this than the men's one. I actually just think there's more exciting and dynamic talent in it. Like, look back over here. Almost everyone here is old. And like the in terms of dynamic talent, it's really only Bron Breakker as being like the super dynamic and do something really cool. Cody and Punk will tell stories, but they're not like physically dynamic athletes or anything. Roman Reigns is certainly a diminished athlete compared to what he used to be. The Usos are not athletes whatsoever. Drew, I don't care. Brock, I don't care. Logan Paul, I don't care. But like, this match, I'm interested in seeing at least 7 of these people in this match. At least 7. And which is rare for me. If you were to put 10 WWE wrestlers in a match, any match, like, it'll be rarely more than 5 that I'm interested to see. But there's about 7 in here I'm interested to see. I like how the stories have kind of blended across. You know, don't feel, a lot of these stories don't feel forced together. You know, there's 3 kind of tag team units in there that I've had 4 that have had interactions with each other before WarGames. We're on the path to WarGames as such. So yeah, I'm much more interested in this than the other one. But to be fair, Cody cut a fantastic promo the other night. And then this is the last segment. And I got the one that said segmento completo. I'm sure that's Spanish for a complete segment or segment completed. But WWE have reunited the Lucha Bros in a backstage pre-tape segment on a small AAA show in Mexico. What do you even say about that? If that doesn't tell you what these guys' current standing in the company is, I don't know what else to tell you. They've reunited in a pre-tape backstage segment on a AAA show in Mexico. That does not bode well for the future of the Lucha Bros and any sustained push within WWE. WWE don't care about tag team wrestling as it stands. But like, this should have been a proper emotional reunion in a big segment on Raw or SmackDown. or on a pay-per-view, but no. It's one of the smaller shows of a company that they own but don't treat with a whole lot of respect, that nobody's going to see. It's just sad, really, isn't it? It's just fucking sad. Because these guys, like, they still have it. Like, I'm sure if you let Rey Fenix off the leash, he'd do amazing things and wow your crowd. He should be your new Rey Mysterio, but you're just not going to let it happen. Sean Dunn says the downgrade of these two is actually shocking. It's shocking. It's such crap booking. Like, I don't understand why you sign these lads and, like, do everything in your power to not promote them and not give them a platform or an opportunity to actually succeed. When you do things like having them reunite in a backstage pre-tape in Mexico, you're not giving them a platform to succeed. You're sending a signal to the audience, to your fan base, that, yeah, these are just two guys. They're just two guys. There's nothing important about them. That's why we have them reuniting in this kind of segment. If you do that on TV in a big time segment to finish a show or to start a show, you're signaling to your audience, we believe in these two. They're worth watching. They're worth following. We're investing and getting behind our tag team division. Really worked out for them wanting to leave AEW for a company that doesn't have the best history with Mexican wrestlers. Yeah. WWE have never really known what to do with Mexican talent, particularly not of the lucha variety. Eddie isn't even really Mexican, you know, he's Mexican American. I think Eddie even considered himself more American than Mexican, but I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. Ray is undeniable, but even when Ray did win the world title, it was a terribly booked reign, and they didn't do everything they could have done with Ray. Jordan and Ilya had a banger on SmackDown worth a watch. I didn't see that, actually. I'll check that out because I'll watch any Ilya matches. He's just fucking awesome. But that's it for All Elite Morro this week, clocking in at 57 minutes. A little bit shorter than the usual 1 hour 20 minutes we've been going recently. But loads of stuff on the channel. Shane did his Bizarre series on Mike Awesome and the Fat Chick Thriller. Fantastic. Laughed me head off. He has a Hulk Hogan dissing Morrow track in there. It's just brilliant stuff. Check that out. We did the new series of Total Extreme Morrow. Episode 1 is released, focusing on the Irish independent wrestling scene. Next episode coming on Friday. I'm having tremendous amounts of fun with that. And we have a new 4-man booth episode out with myself, Johnny Martz, Kieran Dunphy, and Shane. And we talk about gimmicks and storylines that nearly happened or that were kind of floated backstage but never actually made it onto screen. Checked out loads of stuff. Fucking too much stuff, probably. But thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. Sean, Aaron, Ronan, Oshin, Ribshaw, all the legends. Brian Dunn. Sorry, Brian. Yeah, Brian, look, you can be available to watch back in 3 minutes' time, and you'll be even able to follow along the chat. Just be on time next week, Brian, you know? Just be on time. Just be on time. Very simple. We'll be back, regular slot, 7:30 next Monday night. Next Monday we'll have seen WWE WarGames at that stage. Hopefully the men can pull off a good match. I have a feeling the women's one will. But yeah, thanks for your time tonight. Enjoy your week. Constantly binge all the stuff on the Wrestling Fan Wrestling Show. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you next week. And Total Extreme Morrow episode 2 coming Friday. This has been All Elite Morrow. We're the best. Talk wrestling.